If you were to say Israel's greatest contributions to the world, could you give me 5 or 10 off the top of your head? Throw them
So
out.
our main contributions are in agri-tech, water technology is huge, cyber technology. We have the highest concentration of AI talent in the world. Computer vision, all the technology behind Google self-driving vehicles all comes from Israel. Um, Deep tech, which is like deep scientific technologies, but we are world leading in all sorts of deep tech technologies. Of course, defense technologies, um, aerial defense technologies.
Welcome to the Israeli Trailblazers Show. I'm your host, Jennifer Weissmann. After years of living in Israel, I am back in America and I realized something very big. Israelis are wildly misunderstood, and our media focuses on conflict. And in the meantime, Israelis are out there quietly making your life better every single day. Think Waze guiding you home, or Monday.com powering your work face. The Israeli Trailblazers Show is all about uncovering the bold, creative, and hidden ways that Israelis are helping your world. My guest today lives this mission on a daily basis. Fleur Hassan-Nahoum has dedicated her life to building bridges, from serving as the deputy mayor in Jerusalem to co-founding the UAE and Israeli Business Council after the historic 2020 Abraham Accords. She is a fierce voice for Israel on a global stage. So it's an honor to have you, Fleur. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's great to be with you.
In your opinion, how do Israelis help the world?
Well, it's a really big question, and amongst one of my most proud titles, I am actually today the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation. And so a lot of what I do as a representative of the Israeli government is talk to many countries around the world about how we can help them solve their problems, which is crazy when you think about the fact that Israel is a country which is not even 80 years old. We're 77-year-old young, 4,000 years old as a nation state, of course, in Israel. But what's really interesting is that our ethos from the very beginning of the establishment of the modern state of Israel, even when we didn't have enough money to balance our budget and do anything, we didn't have enough social health care, enough social security, even when we were struggling as a young country, there was always the ethos of tikkun olam, of what is it that we can teach other people from our story.
That means
And our
heal the world. Tikkun olam means heal
tikkun
the world.
olam is heal the world, exactly. Fix the world, heal the world. But it was even in the 1950s, like I said, when we were a young, struggling country, when we barely had enough for ourselves, when we were dealing with unprecedented immigration from countries around Eastern Europe after the Holocaust and, of course, the Arab world after the establishment of the State of Israel, we still had this ethos that whatever we've learned, we want to share. Now, what is it that we learned? And this is something that actually became much more clear to me during the Abraham Accords. And I'll give you an example. You know, a country like UAE don't have any financial problems, but 92% of their food is imported. Now, in 1948, and before the state was established, and since the state was established, Israel didn't have neighbors to trade with. And because we didn't have neighbors to trade with, we had to become food self-sufficient. Now, the fact that a little struggling country in the middle of deserts and middle of wars, right, became food self-sufficient even before and post the establishment of our country is wild.
Yeah.
Just think about it. We had no neighbors. Our neighbors wanted to destroy us. And so what did we do? What does the kibbutz movement come from? It was we had this land full of swamps and mosquitoes that would kill people. It was barren, barely farmed, you know, as opposed to what people try and tell you was here before. Nothing. The only reason there was Arab immigration into this area was because Jews started coming in the late 1800s. And so they thought, oh, hang on, there's some trade, there's some movement, there's some action. And then Arabs started coming from Syria. They moved south, and mainly from Syria, Egypt, some Jordan. So this was all happening because Jews were here and started to work with the land. By the time we were established, we could feed ourselves. That is incredible. Move forward a couple of decades, and what's the main problem in the Middle East? It's water. Water is the main problem in the Middle East. Now, Israel is one of the leading countries of desalination. Why? Because we could not rely on rainwater. We're in the middle of the Middle East. It rains, but we can't rely on it. We were running out of water. When I moved to Israel 24 years ago, I remember campaigns on TV. Save water. Don't leave the tap on when you're brushing your teeth. Save water. Don't have a bath. Have a shower. Saving water was a big, big deal. And now that you don't hear that anymore. Why? Because Israel has advanced desalination technology. Now, this is what we've done in order to survive and thrive. But we weren't happy there. No. Once we got that technology down, we invented the concept of agricultural technology, drip irrigation to save water. We are the country, listen to this, we recycle 80% of our water. We are the number one recyclers of water in the world. Who's number two and in what percentage? Number two is Spain, and they recycle 10% of their water. So 80% Israel, 10% Spain, the next country down.
Think about the size. The
And the
size of
size of
Israel
it,
it just
exactly.
blows my mind.
And now all of this going on, we don't say, okay, this is great. We're food self-sufficient. We're water self-sufficient. No. Since the 50s and the 60s, following on to the 17th until today, we have an arm of the foreign ministry of the state of Israel called Mashav. And the whole point of Mashav is essentially development technologies to the third world. We were a third world country, and we were exporting the agricultural technology that we developed in order to survive and thrive. So it's so built in to our DNA and our ethos. It's very difficult to separate. I'll give you another crazy example, because this to me it just says everything. So of course, post October 7th, as we're all dealing with the trauma that happened, and we've been talking about it, one of my trips down south, when I went to visit, of course, the kibbutzes, and then I went to visit a trauma center in Sderot. Sderot was one of the cities in the south that was attacked by Hamas. A lot of people died. A lot of more people could have died. It was a miracle that they didn't, but a lot of the Sderot people were very, very traumatized, and many of them injured and killed. So I go to Sderot, and I go to this center for trauma, okay? And this was a year ago. So we're still in the middle of this war. We still we've had one hostage exchange. We didn't have the second one. We still have women there. We still have the Bieber's kids there who were murdered or we didn't know. We're still extremely traumatized. I'm in Sderot, and I'm driving around Sderot. What do I see in people's houses? Sderot is still empty. People have not come back yet, right? Because we're still fighting the war in Gaza in full force. Sukkahs. Why? Because people ran away from Sderot, and they didn't even have time to take their sukkahs down. So 8 months later, you're driving around Sderot, and all you see is sukkahs everywhere.
Just
like we were in the
frozen
middle of
in
Sukkot.
time. It was
Frozen in time.
Frozen in
time.
time.
Where are the people of Sderot?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's all going on. And I go to the trauma center in Sderot, and I'm speaking to this incredible woman who runs the place. And she's telling me already in the middle of the war, when people are still not back, where the sukkahs are still up as a horrible reminder of what we've been through, she's telling me, we're going to organize a conference on terrorism trauma relief for the world. I'm like, we're in the middle of the trauma. How can you be thinking about how we're going to use this traumatic experience to help other people going through traumatic terrorism experiences. That's how crazily built in this fixing the world and healing the world is in Israel and in the Jewish psyche.
What is Israel contributing to the UAE, for example, that people don't know about? What's the secret sauce here?
Well, there's a lot going on. The UAE after COVID, when their supply chains started to feel a little bit risky, and even looking forward, Saudi Arabia, they want to achieve the self-sufficiency in food and water that we've achieved. Like, remember, we're talking about very wealthy countries that don't need, they can buy anything from anyone. They
Yes.
can buy anything from anyone. They don't need us. There's plenty of agricultural technology everywhere. Why do they want us? What is it that we can provide to them? I would say two things. One is that we have the same terrain. We have similar climate challenges because we're hot Middle Eastern countries. So we can understand, the terrain. We understand also the mentality, believe it or not. But
I
more
believe
than
it.
just, yeah, so more than just importing a technology, what they really, really want is for us to do almost like a talent transfer. What does that mean? What they lack is real an innovation mindset. That's what they lack. They know, they're smart enough to know that they need that. And so more than just for the things they can buy, and Israeli technology is still the best in the world, especially for climate issues, but more than all of that, what they want is our innovation, spirit, know-how, infrastructure, and talent development.
Yes.
And Saudi actually wants that a lot as well.
So
They
let's
don't have their own innovators, which they don't have their own homegrown innovators.
Do you feel like Saudi is the next country to join the Abraham Accord?
Yeah, I would say Saudi. Um, uh, things were looking things were looking good with Syria until yesterday, but I would say Saudi, and then after Saudi gives the okay, we will be seeing countries potentially like Indonesia and Oman. But Saudi's key. But I also say to people, we may not have with Saudi the same kind of shiny White House lawn ceremony for there to be normalization. What do I mean? There's a lot of Israeli technology and companies already in Saudi.
Hmm.
I would say Saudi today looks like the UAE looked like 2 years before the Abraham Accords, where Israelis were quietly, through third companies, white labeling their products. They were already there.
Well,
There's a good 100, 200 Israeli companies, Israeli technology floating around Saudi.
let me ask you: are they slower to join the Abraham Accord because of the recent war in Iran? That their nemesis may have softened a bit. Maybe they don't feel they need it.
No, I would actually say the contrary. The Hamas started the 7th of October because they were trying to derail the peace with Saudi. And believe me, it was getting close. End of August, September, peace with Saudi was looking very, very, very realistic. And that was one of the reasons that they launched the war when they did. They wanted to do everything to derail it. And for a time, they managed to derail it. So what I would say now is we're in a new era, because what the Arab world respects more than anything is strength. They don't respect weakness, they respect strength. And I think that the latest war with Iran has only showcased Israel's incredible military strength,
It
incredible
was
resilience,
it
its
was
incredible
unbelievable.
defense technologies. Think about the defensive technologies. Think about Israel without the Iron Dome with 200 ballistic missiles. We would have had 10,000 people dead.
You
That's
know
what we're
what?
looking at.
For a little country with very small population compared to other countries, and the scope and size of what they were able to deliver is amazing. I want to ask a question about these Sunni moderate countries. Do you think that the Middle East will split into two camps? One is peace and prosperity, and the other countries that just want jihad?
It's already split. I've been talking about this for 4 years now. There is a split in the Middle East. It's actually already happening or happened. The split is exactly what you mentioned. The Sunni moderate countries that want peace and prosperity, who are they? The UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, not Middle East, but, near enough.
What about Lebanon?
Jordan.
What about Lebanon?
Mhm.
What happens with
So
Lebanon?
Lebanon was under Iranian occupation through Hezbollah. That's Lebanon. Lebanon is under occupation, or was under occupation of Hezbollah. The Lebanese, people don't remember that the Middle East used to have 20% Christians, and today they have 4% Christians
Yeah.
because of the Islamization of the Middle East.
Yes.
Now, Lebanon is a whole other story, but Lebanon basically was taken over by Hezbollah. It's a non-state actor that took over a state, a non-state actor which is funded, aided and abetted by Iran, which took over the country of Lebanon. Now, after we've managed to seriously debilitate them, especially because unlike Iran, Nasrallah was a transformational leader there. And since we managed to kill Nasrallah, they really haven't, they can't replace Nasrallah. And so they're significantly weakened. And as a result of the fact that they're significantly weakened, there is an opportunity, a moment for the Lebanese government that represents the diversity of Lebanon, which is also Christian and Muslim and Druze and many different other smaller tribes. There is an opportunity now for Lebanon to free themselves of the shackles of the Islamists from Iran, Hezbollah, and actually, join the side of the Sunni moderates that want peace and prosperity.
Yes.
So that's, that's what we're hoping for Lebanon. And Israel has been a massive contributing factor in this.
Jews outside of Israel, you're seeing a massive rise in anti-Semitism in America, in Europe. How do you combat this as Fleur going out into the world? How do you manage this, changing this narrative?
Well, I think the only way is to educate people. Israelis don't know what anti-Semitism is. I'm convinced. They've been brought up, and raised in a majority country. They don't know what it is to be a minority, and they certainly don't understand the nuances of anti-Semitism. And that's why so many Israelis say such stupid things, not understanding how it's weaponized outside against her own Jewish communities outside of Israel. But even Jews don't really understand anti-Semitism completely, and that's why the IRA definition of anti-Semitism is so important, because the IRA definition has basically taken all of the history, all of the sordid history of anti-Semitism, and has kind of reversed engineered rules so that we don't get to that. Let me give you a small example. I've got a friend who lives outside of Israel who's in politics. Outside of Israel, I don't want to be specific. And somebody says on Facebook to her, do you hold an Israeli passport? Now, what is this a dog whistle for? When you look at the IRA definition, it's a dog whistle for a dual loyalty allegation. What are they saying to this politician? Well, first of all, she didn't hold an Israeli passport, but what is the accusation? The accusation is that she's an Israel firster in another country.
Right.
And this accusation of dual loyalty.
Yes.
It happens every single day in America. But if people are not aware that this is an anti-Semitic dog whistle, they can't do anything about it.
But what I see happening in America in particular is sort of the perfect storm where we
Yeah.
had years of a woke agenda, that this whole movement that has taken over. It's become a storm in our education system, starting in kindergarten, all the way through, certainly in many of the colleges in America, where there's this movement where other people, like Israelis, it's metastasized into this free Palestine movement, this movement against Israel. When you look at the potential mayor in New York City, the city in America with the largest number of Jews who cannot come out and say, globalize the Intifada is wrong, and yet it's very possible that this man could win the election in November. But my question to you is, how do we rebuild the image of Jews in the world
Well, I
back
want to
to
say two things.
back to our true self? And
Well, first of all, the education the Jews have been getting is not good enough. Because if there's a Jew that doesn't know that the Jewish people are the indigenous people of the land of Israel, that Jew has not been educated correctly. Now, if you don't know that, you as a Jew might even fall for this rubbish about the fact that we're colonizers in our own land. But if you are sure, as the day is bright, if you're sure 100% that Jews are from Judea, you know their history, you know their lineage, we've been there for 4,000 years, we've been kicked out and brought back and kicked out and brought back. If you know your history, then when somebody says Jews are from Poland, you can say, hang on a minute, no. But if you don't know that, you're going to fall for it. So I would say education has to be the first priority.
there's a big movement towards correcting the ship, towards moving back to proper education. But the horses are already out of the barn. When you turn on the media, the very first soundbite that you get is that
Is,
Israel is doing something wrong and
yes,
Israel is hurting people. It's crazy, but it's
yeah,
completely being lost.
yeah.
How do we combat this?
I think that what we're facing is a very toxic marriage of Marxism that is today called woke. It's pure Marxism. And Marxism was always anti-Semitic. And Islamism, which is essentially Nazi Islamofascism. And you have these two people that don't agree on anything except the fact that they both hate Jews for different reasons, but they both hate Jews. And the media is completely taken on the narrative of the woke, oppressor, oppressed, Marxism. And of course, they are fueled and funded by Islamic country called Qatar, and some of it Iran, and lots of other bad actors. So it's not like it's all on us. This is a huge problem that the West is facing. But of course, the Jews are always the first scapegoats of any of this, right? That's the way it happens. But let's not kid ourselves that this is not just about us. There's a much bigger thing going on here,
There
but Jews
is.
are always the first.
We have this very conflicting situation where we have President Trump who did something quite bold, bombing,
Yeah,
using the beach, right, to bomb Iran. And at the same time, he takes a plane from Qatar. And we have our
yeah.
largest base in Qatar. Why not move that base out of there and level the playing field? It doesn't
Well,
make any sense.
why not put it in the UAE, who are a friendly, moderate country that actually were the pioneers? They were the first country, and they got nothing out of it, by the way, in terms of something from the United States. They didn't get a present in any way, like Egypt gets money every year for having made peace with Israel, etc. So yes, I'm with you. I think what the Americans have to realize is, and I think the West is realizing it very slowly, is that it never ends with the Jews when it starts with the Jews. This is the history of anti-Semitism, has been the history of every single country where anti-Semitism was allowed to run rampant, was the beginning of the end of the deconstruction of that country. And so I don't think this is our problem alone to solve. Having said that, Israel does not do a good job at all in the narrative war. The Israeli government, and I will say this, and I've said it to their faces, the Israeli government have not yet actually realized that we are in a hybrid war. The hybrid war is kinetic, military, and narrative war. And the narrative war is as existential and as dangerous as the military war.
Fleur, in one sentence, how do you combat this anti-Israel, anti-Jew bias in the world?
What I would say is that we need a strategy. That's the answer. We don't have a strategy. We have a lot of wonderful organizations, bottom up, doing a lot of good work, not coordinated. Imagine, Jennifer, fighting a war and everybody's shooting in a different direction. That's what's going on with the media war. That's what's going on with the narrative war. We don't have strategy. We don't have a hierarchy. We don't have what I would do. And maybe one day, and this is why I'm still hanging on in there in politics, I want to create a mirror of the IDF for the narrative war. What do I mean by that? A chief of staff, generals, a department for education, which the army has, a department for media, a legal department, all of it we can do. If
And we
somebody
need
takes
to
leadership,
export.
we just have to bring in partners from America. We don't have to hand it over. We can make the Jewish community and these other organizations as part of our army. That's what I'm saying.
Understand you.
We need an Asbara Mossad. That's what we need.
And is there an appetite for this?
Well, amongst people like me, absolutely. We've been shouting, myself and many other advocates, we've been shouting from the rooftops. And I've realized that the only way to do it is you can't expect other people to do it. And so we're doing it ourselves. What do I mean? The reason I'm still hanging on in politics, the only reason I want to stay in politics is to fix this one thing. Because that's what I'm uniquely positioned to be able to do. I don't want to be transport minister of the state of Israel.
Are there many people who believe like you in Israel?
Within Israel, yes, mainly the advocates. They all agree with me. And they've also been shouting about it.
Yeah.
You know, we had a meeting with the foreign minister. The foreign minister got some budget to deal with this issue. And I got $500 million shekels, which is what, about $100 million, $150 million. And he invited about 100 influencers to come to the foreign ministry. All of us say what we think. In a way, it was a bit of a waste of time because how can you have a serious discussion with 100 people? But ultimately, they really haven't come up with a solution yet. We're waiting.
If you were to say Israel's greatest contributions to the world, could you give me 5 or 10 off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah.
Throw them
So
out.
our main contributions are in agri-tech. Water technology is huge. Cyber technology. We have the highest concentration of AI in the world, AI talent in the world. Computer vision. All the technology behind Google self-driving vehicles all comes from Israel. Deep tech, which is like deep scientific technologies, things that I can't even explain because they're just so technical. But we are world leading in all sorts of deep tech technologies, of course, defense technologies, aerial defense technologies. What else? And
Medicine.
unfortunately,
I mean,
a
it's
lot
yeah.
of rehab, prosthetics, things we need. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. So everything we've been through, being attacked physically, being attacked cyber, having no water, having no food, all of our necessities we have turned into first class, top of the range technologies, and then we have exported to other people who need them.
I heard you're starting something called Campus Israel. So,
Yes.
okay, talk to me. What is it and why is it important?
So, you know, when Jews first came to America and they weren't allowed to work in the big banks, what did the Jews do? We made our own banks, right?
Yeah.
What's Goldman Sachs? If not a Jewish bank,
Right.
investment bank that was open because the Jews weren't allowed. It was very waspy and nobody wanted Jews in their employment. So what did Jews do? When we are pushed out of somewhere, when we are bullied out of somewhere, when it is unsafe for us to be somewhere, what do? We build it bigger and better. That's what we do. So at the moment, the most hostile environment for Jewish young people are college campuses. Now we have two options. We can continue to fight anti-Semitism on campus, and I think we should. But to me, that's defense. What's offense? What is our answer to Jews not being allowed into banks?
Build
Come
your
and,
own.
yes, but we already have them built and they're in Israel. And so I want American Jewish kids to look at Israel as a potential destination for doing their college degrees in English. Not just because we are the leaders of these technologies, but these technologies, many of them start in college because students go in with a problem solving mindset. So what I'm saying is, why are you paying $90,000 a year to be abused and bullied when you can pay $10,000 a year, study amongst your people, not suffer any anti-Semitism, and study in a way that gives you an edge over every one of your peers in America because of the atmosphere and the energy for problem solving and innovation in the state of Israel. So Campus Israel champions and facilitates college in Israel in English.
Amazing. Is that being rolled out to high schools in America yet? It is.
Absolutely. We're starting. This fall, we'll start our rollout. At the moment, we're building a top of the range platform where the kids will be able to have conversations about their careers and see what degree is the best for them. Will they be able to talk to people who've done these degrees? Will they be able to pick what internships they want? We're going to create a whole mechanism for career success just for coming to study in Israel.
I love it because as a mom who sends her kid to a private US school, when they get out, it is still very hard to find a job. And if that's not one of the reasons to go to a great school and get a great education, the end of the rainbow should be an employment in your
Yes,
field of study. So
yes,
I think what you're saying about Campus Israel, not only do they have a world-class education, but they actually have a position at the end, a
yes,
job to go to, whether it's in Israel or maybe back in America. It's
yes.
absolutely amazing. Is there anything else that you think would be really helpful to talk about as an Israeli trailblazer? What someone in Indiana might want to know about Israel?
You know, I always say that Israel is a peaceful country, believe it or not, because every single country that has wanted peace with Israel has found peace with Israel. The only people we are in conflict with are the people who are dedicated to our destruction. We just want to be left alone. We want to build societies. We want to fix the world. We want to innovate. We are fighting with one hand and we're building with the other. Imagine if all our energy just went into building.
It's
We would,
incredible.
we would solve cancer in a year.
Thank you for joining us on the Israeli Trailblazers Show. I'm Jennifer Weissmann, your host. I hope today's conversation with Fleur gave you a deeper look into how Israelis are boldly helping your world through innovation and courage and spirit of connection. If this inspired you, please share it with a friend and post it on all of your socials. Until next time, keep discovering, stay curious, and celebrate the Israeli trailblazers that are making your world better every single day.